Hey guys, and welcome to the Dead by Daylight developer update for July 2023. My name is GM_nameless, and today we will be running through some of the changes coming to us over the next few weeks. Hopefully behavior are going to surprise us with some exciting changes, but we'll crack on and see what comes our way. Don't forget there will be a PTB trialing these changes. There will be tweaks, so these aren't the final settings. Let's just keep that in mind. And these are also just my opinions as well. So without further ado, let's see what's coming. So first thing on the agenda is survivor disconnect bots. We all find it frustrating whether you're a survivor or a killer when disconnects happen. Unfortunately, these things sometimes can't be helped. Other times they can. However, the survivors and killers left in the game afterwards, there needs to be something that happened, and this is filling that gap, essentially. So bots will replace disconnected survivors, hopefully with their perks and items if they bring them. We'll have to see how this goes. Behavior have been improving the survivor bot AI, so they won't be urban evading everywhere. They will actually be helping, repairing the generators, unhooking, healing, those kind of things. We'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully it can help with the other survivors' chance of survival as well. That drops off a cliff when somebody disconnects. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this. Let's see how the PTB goes, and we'll go from there, really. But this is a welcome change. I'm sure anybody will suggest that. Next on the list, successful report feedback. Something that hasn't happened in the past. When you put in a report, you don't know if somebody's read it or an action's been taken from it. In this instance, there will be feedback on behavior to say if something has happened from the report you have put in, such as a player being banned, and for what reason. It's nice to see this, and it encourages people to report. At the moment, there's nothing to encourage people to report or to even feel like anything's happening. This is another welcome change, and I'm sure this is from both sides. Okay, so the Onryo. Okay, so the Onryo turned up about a year ago. Obviously, we don't see the Onryo played that much. Not sure what the real reason is for. She's fairly good, but not as terrifying as she should be. And I think this is where the change comes in. So, projection. When the Onryo is demanifested, she can project herself to any powered TV around the map. This would inflict nearby survivors with a stack of condemned in the process. We have made significant changes to this mechanic. So, buffs coming in. Projecting to a TV now applies 3/4 of a stack of condemned to all survivors not carrying a cursed tape. This was one to nearby survivors only previously. The time a TV is disabled after the Onryo projects to it has been reduced to 70 seconds. This was 100 seconds beforehand. This can be further reduced using add-ons. Okay. The time a TV is disabled after a survivor removed the cursed tape has been increased to 90 seconds and was previously 60 seconds. Okay. So a little bit of help there to survivors. Projection now has a 15-second cooldown. Since there is no longer a range limit on the condemned effect, we now need to limit how frequently this happens. That makes sense. Whether 15 seconds cooldown is enough, we'll find out in the PTB, but at least there is a cooldown. I think it's a bit harsh that all survivors get affected by the condemned, even if you're right across the other side of the map. It doesn't really make sense to me. We'll just have to see how it goes. Combine these changes to make it much harder to spread condemned while using your power in a way that feels natural. Sorry, much easier. And I think that's the point. Condemned does need to be spread a bit more easier for Sadako. It needs to be a bit more threatening to the survivors. But how they're implementing this is subjective, I guess. So cursed tapes. Cursed tapes have become more dangerous as well. So holding a cursed tape may protect you from the condemned effect. When the Onryo teleports, they come with their own risks. Getting hit with a basic attack while carrying a cursed tape will apply 1 stack of condemned. When a survivor carrying a cursed tape is hooked, All other survivors gain 1 stack of condemned and the tape is destroyed. That's going to be painful, that one. Holding a cursed tape no longer passively builds condemned. That makes sense. But it also puts you at a lot more risk. Cursed tapes can now be placed in any TV other than the one they were retrieved from. Also, something that makes sense. It's still quite a risk, but it's better than running across the whole map all the time. Because that seemed to be the case. Especially with the mechanics like that, like Freddy, when you have to go and find an alarm clock, it always seems to be the opposite end of the map. Taking a cursed tape is now a strategic choice you will need to make. The protection it offers may be beneficial for now, but it is much more punishing if you're caught carrying one. You'll want to plan carefully and get rid of your tape if you fear the Onryo may be on her way, which is typically the case, so interesting how people play around that. The manifestation. We have also made a few adjustments to the Onryo's demanifested state. The Onryo can no longer be stunned while demanifested. Chases are prevented when demanifested, making it more difficult to keep track of the Onryo's position. The manifesting now removes bloodlust, similar to other killers' powers. So those 3 points there make sense. So the Onryo will become more of a stealth killer, but at the same time, the changes make sense to that. Okay. So add-ons for the Onryo are balancing. So the stronger add-ons are being brought more in line, and so are the lowest ones. Next on the agenda, hook grabs. Okay, so we've all been in that situation before. A survivor runs towards the hooked friend, but the killer is nearby, so you both play a thrilling game of unhooked chicken. We've all been in that situation, like they've said. It's not great for either the survivor or the killer. Can be quite fun in some niche scenarios, but a lot of the time it's very tedious, in my opinion, at least. So in the next update, we are removing grabs from unhooking survivors. In practice, this means that the awkward mind game when unhooking has been eliminated. Be warned, however, you are still not safe while unhooking. Though you may succeed in rescuing the hooked survivor, the killer will still be able to hit you twice before you can make your escape. In most cases, you will trade your safety for your friends. But you can still be interrupted by the sound of it. They're not taking that away, just the ability to grab a survivor when they are trying to unhook another survivor. Which means there will still be that mind game without the risk of being grabbed. So that's why they say at the end there, you will trade your safety for your friends in most cases. So kind of makes sense. At least if you're healthy, you have a chance to trade. Because in the past, you would just be grabbed, and that'll be it, even if you're healthy. So I guess that's the niche scenario that they're taking away. Okay, brand new part. I feel like there's a bit of a nerf going on here. In recent months, brand new parts have once again become a hot topic for discussion. On their own, they can shave quite a bit of time from a generator, but this is compounded when multiple survivors bring one to a trial. We realise this can be frustrating for killers to face, and so we have decided to rework this add-on. When a brand new part is installed, you will face a difficult skill check. Upon succeeding the skill check, the generator's required charges are reduced by 10 and the add-on is consumed. In terms of time saved, the updated brand new part will save 10 seconds compared to the previous 22.5 seconds. That's a big change. Quite a big nerf in my opinion, because that's a lot of time on a gen. As this lowers the required charges for the affected generator, any regression perks which apply regression based on the generator's total charges will have their effectiveness slightly reduced, just to balance that out. Okay, so that's quite a big nerf in my opinion. They are iridescent add-ons. Maybe reduce the amount that can be like obtained in the blood web or something. I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. It'd be good to get a brand new part in the PTB and see the difference. Okay, so we'll go through some of these perks. Okay, so killer perks, coup de grace. Activating when generators are powered means this perk can only activate up to 5 times per match. Extended lunges can surely make a difference, but it's difficult to benefit from this perk when they are so limited. To help it come into play more often, coup de grace will now gain 2 tokens whenever a generator is powered, not 1. So 10 times per match, coup de grace can be used. If used successfully, which typically it will be for the huge range that it has. Factor in latency that a lot of survivors complain about. Eesh. I don't see coup de grace being used that much, so I'm not sure how much of an issue it would be, but that may sway it slightly. Not suggesting it's coming meta. So claustrophobia. This perk also activates when a generator is powered, since it only blocks vault locations within 32 meters of the completed generator. It's very likely that this perk won't come into play unless you happen to be chasing a survivor nearby. We are removing the range restriction from claustrophobia. Survivors will want to react quickly and find a pallet instead of a window when this perk is activated. Ouch. Map-wide claustrophobia. That's huge. That is absolutely huge, I think. Imagine if you're not very good at looping and pallets are pretty much used because somebody just randomly throwing them down. You don't have a lot of time. That could become strong for those that use claustrophobia. I don't see it used that often. Will we now? Interesting. So Hangman's Trick. Hangman's Trick finds itself in a tricky spot. Its range is fairly small given that hooks are very common. However, increasing the range any further will cause it to reveal auras across nearly the entire map. Hangman's Trick will become a Scourge hook. Okay, this perk now reveals the aura of survivors within 8, 9, 10 meters of a Scourge hook whenever a survivor is being carried. Okay. Not massive, but it could be interesting. Territorial Imperative. The short aura reading duration can make it easy to miss. Add on to that a fairly large distance requirement, and it becomes very tricky to use effectively. Yeah, that kind of makes sense with that perk. We have increased the duration of the aura read to 4, 5, 6 seconds, was 3. We have also lowered the distance the killer must be from the basement entrance to 24 meters instead of 32. I get why they're doing that. That kind of makes sense. Hopefully it doesn't affect or doesn't make killers tend to camp the basement too much. To give survivors an opportunity to sneak in for a rescue, we have increased the cooldown of Territorial Imperative to 45 seconds. Okay, so maybe that will help a bit as well from both sides. I'd like to see a bit of a balance. Oh God, remember me. This perk can help turn a match around towards the end, but it currently is not as effective as we like. Each time your obsession loses a health state, gain a token. Each token increases the opening gate, or the opening time of the gate, by 6 seconds up to a maximum of 24 seconds. Okay, so it was 4 seconds per token before. Okay, that's interesting. Obviously a buff. 8 seconds extra. That could make it stronger end game. Well, will make it stronger end game, but how much of a difference does it make in what scenarios of all the games that have been played that would come into effect and make a difference? Yeah, interesting. Okay. X crowd control. Having a window block behind a survivor after they vault it can come in handy in certain circumstances. But in many cases, the survivor can simply outlast the entity blocker. Okay, this doesn't create much pressure on the survivors to find and cleanse the Hex totem. We are increasing the duration of the entity blocker caused by Hex crowd control to 40, 50, 60 seconds. Previously, 14 seconds was the most. Ouch. Massive buff. From 14 seconds to 60 seconds. That's huge. That's way too much, in my opinion. Survivors will want to find and cleanse the associated hex totem before it's too late. Do you think people sitting on a gen are going to go, oh, they're being chased, let's go and find the hex totem that's crowd control for that person? I don't know. Especially solo queues. Nah, leave them to it. Oof. That's a huge... Why so much? Why 60 seconds? Why not 30 seconds? Even that sounds like a lot. Okay. Let me know what you think about that one. Trial of Torment. Trial of Torment allows the killer to hide their terror radius and sneak up on survivors. Since it disables the next time a survivor loses a health state, there often isn't much pressure on the survivors to venture over and stop the generator from regressing. To make this perk more threatening, Trial of Torment will now only deactivate when the affected generator stops regressing, not when a health state is lost. Ooh. So now survivors are almost forced to go and stop the gen from regressing. I'm not sure that change makes sense. I get why they've done it, but that means they can make survivor lose a health state or multiple health states, and they will still have Trial of Torment. That's huge, I think. Especially if they are patrolling the area with the gen. Because it's just going to... the killer's just going to go back and kick it again. They'll just stay in the area, and the survivors will do what? It's going to be interesting. PTB will see how this plays out. Okay, survivor perks. Prove thyself. This perk grants a repair speed bonus for each survivor within a small range, allowing survivors to negate the penalty for working on a generator simultaneously. Though it is just as efficient to work on separate generators, there is still tremendous value in being able to finish a specific generator very quickly through co-op repairs. Yeah, makes sense. To bring this perk in line with other options, we are reducing the repair speed bonus to 6, 8, 10% per nearby survivor was 15. So maximum 5% reduction per survivor. We have also removed the blood point bonus for co-op repairs. That's going to upset a lot of people. Well, a lot of survivors anyway. Killers will be laughing, I think. Yeah. Especially with barbecue and chili losing its blood point bonus. I think people will go the deja vu route now. Potentially. We'll see. Okay. Blast mine. Few things are more crushing than installing blast mine on a generator only for the killer to ignore it for so long that your trap expires. We have increased the duration of blast mine to 100, 110, 120 seconds. Was 35, 40, 45 seconds. That's quite a big buff in terms of duration. I think it is needed. I think the killers might be a little bit like, maybe too much. I can get that to some extent on both sides. So wiretap is in a similar position to blast mine, but we also want to take the opportunity to standardize how these sorts of perks work. We have increased the duration of wiretap to the same. That was 60, 70, 80 seconds. We have also normalized the activation requirements and text description between blast mine and wiretap, meaning wiretap will now activate after 50% worth of generator repairs, was 33. Okay, that's a bit of a change. Especially with gens taking longer. Okay. I don't know many people that use this, personally. Your experience may vary. Okay, Saboteur. The hook-breaking heroes out there will know that even a fraction of a second can make the difference between sabotaging the hook and getting hit. When you swing in for the save, you want to get the job done as quickly as possible. We have reduced the time it takes to sabotage a hook without toolbox to 2.3 seconds. That's 0.2 of a second. I think that's going to be hardly noticed at all. We have also adjusted the cooldown for the perk to 70, 65, 60. Okay, so only tier 1 and tier 2 get a buff, which is a bit of a strange one. Tier 3 doesn't get any buff there. And the 0.2 of a second is probably not enough to even notice anything. If that was 2 seconds, I'd understand. And I still don't think it's a half a second. Is that really enough for killer to... I don't know, it depends on the situation, but I don't think it's enough. So clairvoyance or reading can be handy, extremely. But there's only so many totems to go around. Yep. Clairvoyance will now activate upon blessing a totem in addition to cleansing. I feel like this is a little tongue-in-cheek because of the nerf to Circle of Healing. Personally, I don't see that many boons going on, so will this make that much of a difference? I don't know. How many people do you see using clairvoyance? Is this going to make a difference? Again, I don't think so. Breakout. Breakout helps you save a friend by putting yourself in harm's way. With the space in between hooks, it can be very difficult for a survivor to wiggle out before getting hooked. Though we don't want this to be too common, we found that it wasn't coming into play too often. Breakout now increases the wiggle speed of the carried survivor by 25%, was 20%. However, to make this more risky, Breakout now activates within a 5 meter range, was 6 meters. Okay, so I get what they're doing, more risk, more reward. However, the fact that they've taken away the bonus from Wiggles when you hit a great skill check has made Wiggles extremely hard. I think personally they should have made the great skill check a lot smaller, but kept the bonus, and then had another skill check area that was just a standard wiggle. Yeah, I don't know. That's how I would have done it, but we'll see. Is 5% enough for Breakout? Anybody that uses it, let me know. I personally don't. Buckle up. You can't always be guaranteed that the killer will leave a survivor on the ground in the first place. So when a perk like Buckle Up comes into play, we want to make sure that it is impactful. We have revisited this perk and given it a new effect. Okay. Upon healing a survivor from the dying state, both you and the healed survivor gain the endurance status effect for 6, 8, 10 seconds. I like it. Okay. Buckle Up is seen, in my experience, from time to time. So that's a nice little add-on effect. Smash Hit. I quite like Smash Hit. I use it on the odd occasion. When it comes to exhaustion perks, Smash Hit isn't all too popular. Done in a killer with a pallet is sometimes easier said than done. Absolutely, especially when they're ultra respectful. This perk becomes quite dead pretty quick in that game. So to make Smash Hit a more interesting choice, we have reduced the duration of the exhaustion effect to 30, 25, 20 seconds, was 60, 50, 40. Okay, quite a nice buff. If you're running Vigil or somebody near you is, if you get a Smash Hit, you can sprint away somewhere, start walking, and hopefully that will help with the exhaustion effect recovery. I like that. So you can potentially get multiple Smash Hits out of a single game. Could be useful. Yeah, I like that. It's not overpowered because you still have to get the stun. So killers can still be super respectful and doesn't really make that much difference. But on the odd occasions, this does work. Fantastic. So Spine Shield. Before the visual terror radius was introduced, Spine Shield was often used by deaf and hard of hearing players to give themselves some sort of indication of the killer's terror radius. When Spine Shield was reworked, we made sure to keep this element unchanged until a proper accessibility setting could be introduced. Now that the visual terror radius is available, we are removing the terror radius visualization aspect of this perk. Interesting. I'd be interested to hear from people that use this perk for that reason, because now an option has been taken away from them if people don't like the visualization heart icon or anything like that, then there should be an option. Spine Chill, the way that it working was fine. Essentially, you've nerfed it in a strange sort of way. Interesting. Okay. Okay. There's a killer tweaks here for the Executioner Spirit with their add-ons and stuff. The Hag. Okay, so the Hag's getting some changes to the traps. Okay, and some other add-ons. We've got Coldwind Farm balance updates. So I'm going to skip the killer tweaks. You can go back and read those. I will leave a link in the description. But we're just going to wrap this up with the Coldwind Farm balance. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be interesting for us. As announced during this year's anniversary broadcast, if you watched it, we are planning to regularly revisit and rebalance existing maps. Much of them are needed. First up on our to-do list for this year is basically Fractured Cowshed and Rancid Abattoir. Okay, so they found Cowshed to be more in favor of survivors. There's a few causes for this. First, the most useful tile for okay, so the tiles form a bigger ring around the entire map. Basically, this is very easy for the survivors to run from one pallet to another with very little risk of being caught. Yeah, depends a lot on the situation. I guess compared to other maps, if you're doing it that way, then sure. Second, the barn itself was a fairly strong setup for survivors, allowing them to waste quite a bit of the killer's time before leaving. So, my perspective on this is sometimes, if that's the case, then go and find somebody else. Because survivors can waste the killer's time around Shack, for example, if they know how to run it and the killer doesn't. So there's multiple factors in these cases. If the barn was that solid, everybody would be running there all the time. And I don't feel like, in my experience, that is always the case. However, I wonder how they got this information, how they got the statistics or whatever to work this out. Interesting, though. To remedy this, we have made significant layout changes to the map, breaking up the strong outer ring of tiles in this process. Additionally, we have made some adjustment to the layout of the barn itself, which is now slightly closer to the middle of the map to reduce its strength. I get that. That's fine. That probably makes a lot of sense. Be interesting. It'd be interesting. It'd be quite funny if they made these changes and survivors utilized it more, but we'll see. As for Rancid Abattoir, depending on how the map is generated, the slaughterhouse could feature strong setups for the survivors, allowing them to waste a good amount of the killer's time. Additionally, the large freezer in the center of the building featured a single entrance and nothing important to gameplay. Absolutely. No pallets or windows or anything. Leaving little reason for anyone to explore it on both sides. We have updated the layout of the slaughterhouse to make stronger setups less effective. We have also opened up the wall in the back of the freezer to allow players to navigate more easily. Okay. I like that. Utilizing part of the building a bit more. It could work to the killer's advantage. We'll have to see. Across the entire realm, you'll notice updated corn tiles with added detail, as well as updated edge tiles along the map's outer fences. Okay, because I know on the inside, sometimes there could be a lot of dead zones and stuff like that, but a whole rework to Coldwinds should be interesting. Should look forward to it from both survivor and killer side. See how it plays out. Okay, and that's the end of it, basically. So that's it. From my perspective, looking forward to it. From my point of view, though, we need to see what happens on the PTB. There are a lot of buffs to the killer side, some buffs to the survivors, and obviously nerfs. It's subjective. Let's see how it goes. We'll revisit this and get updates from behavior when tweaks are made, tweaks are undone. You know what it's like. But until then, guys, let's keep track, and I'll see you in the fog. Take care for now. Bye-bye.